Imagine being trapped in a vivid nightmare where the walls slowly close in, hope fades away, and you are pushed to the ultimate limits of human endurance. This is not the script of a horror movie, it is the harsh reality faced by prisoners in some of the world's most notorious and terrifying prisons. Right now, prepare yourself as we unlock the darkest corners of humanity and unveil the shocking truths inside. 1. Cecot, El Salvador. No wives, girlfriends, or any family members are allowed to visit. Sleeping arrangements consist of cold, steel bunk beds without mattresses, packed tightly into overcrowded cells with dozens of other inmates. Your cellmates could be some of the most ruthless gang leaders and assassins from the most dangerous criminal organizations in Latin America. Cecot Super Prison, dubbed the Hell on Earth for El Salvador's most notorious criminalsis, one of the most unforgiving incarceration facilities in the world. Opened in January 2023, this prison serves as a cornerstone of President Nayib Bukele's brutal crackdown on crime, a place of no return for the country's most feared gangsters. Located in an isolated rural area, 47 miles southeast of the capital San Salvador, Cecot is designed like a fortress, equipped with multi-layered electric fences, 19 watchtowers, and only a single entry and exit point. Inside, a comprehensive CCTV system monitors every corner, ensuring that no prisoner can escape or even plot a rebellion. More than 1,000 security personnel, including police officers, armed guards, and riot control forces, are stationed around the clock, ready to suppress any threat, whether from inside or outside the prison. With a capacity of 40,000 inmates, Cecot currently houses around 15,000 highly dangerous criminals, primarily from the infamous MS-13 and Barrio 18 gangs. Some of these prisoners are serving sentences of up to 100 years, meaning they will never set foot outside these walls again. All inmates are shaved bald, wear identical white uniforms, and many have tattooed faces, an unmistakable mark of their deep ties to the criminal underworld. Life inside Cecot is strictly controlled to the point of suffocation. Each cell contains only metal bunk beds, no mattresses, no pillows, no blankets. The only amenities available are an open toilet, a concrete sink, and a single water container. Inmates are confined for 23.5 hours a day, with only 30 minutes allotted for exercise or reading the Bible. There are no visits from loved ones, no books, no letters. Even their meals consist of meager portions of rice, beans, cheese, or bananas, no meat whatsoever. Any attempts at rebellion or resistance are crushed immediately. At Cecot, there is no such thing as prison guards being threatened because every inmate is under relentless surveillance with no opportunity to manipulate the system. The prison's lights never go out, and armed guards patrol constantly. El Salvador's Minister of Security, Gustavo Villatoro, once stated, "These criminals are sentenced long enough that they will never leave here, and they will never have a chance to escape." Cecot is more than just a prison, it is a stark symbol of El Salvador's drastic transformation in its war against organized crime. With its merciless regulations and impenetrable security, Cecot has become the ultimate nightmare for criminals, striking fear even into the hearts of the most hardened gangsters. From El Salvador's high-tech super prison, let's now move to one of the most infamous prisons in the United States, Alcatraz, the fortress that once housed some of history's most dangerous criminals. 2. Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary, USA. Isolated in the frigid waters of San Francisco Bay, Alcatraz Prison was not only an impenetrable fortress, but also a symbol of despair and horror. Nicknamed the Island of the Devil, it once housed some of the most dangerous criminals in U.S. history, such as Al Capone, Robert Stroud, and Machine Gun Kelly. But what made Alcatraz a true nightmare was not just its strict security system, but also the invisible horrors that haunted it. Prisoners held here endured not only physical torment, but also absolute isolation. The small, damp, and cold cells, with their rusting iron bars, buried any hope of escape. No one could leave Alcatraz, at least. That's what the authorities wanted everyone to believe. The surrounding waters could drop below 50 Fahrenheit degree, a lethal temperature, combined with strong currents capable of sweeping away anyone who dared to escape. Many inmates who attempted to flee drowned in the icy waters, their bodies never found. But the most terrifying stories weren't about failed escape attempts, they were about what happened inside the gray stone walls. Cell 14D was a place of ultimate horror. This solitary confinement cell kept rebellious prisoners in total darkness, no light, no sound, except for their own desperate screams. Can you imagine being locked in absolute darkness for days? Some prisoners lost their sanity, while others took their own lives. Ruth McCain, an inmate confined in 14D for 3 years, stabbed another prisoner to death upon his release and was acquitted due to severe psychological trauma. Beyond its harrowing isolation, Alcatraz is also infamous for eerie paranormal occurrences that send chills down even the bravest spines. During a bloody escape attempt in 1946, 3 inmates were shot dead, and since then, cell block where they did has become a site of spine-chilling activity. Many prison guards reported hearing hurried footsteps, rattling bars, and mysterious screams at night. Yet, when they checked, everything was silent. Even after Alcatraz closed in 1963, visitors to the abandoned prison still experienced unsettling sensations. Some claimed to feel an invisible presence when stepping into the dark cells. One of the most frightening incidents occurred when Warden Johnston, a notorious skeptic of ghosts, heard the sound of a woman sobbing while leading a tour. The crying echoed from within the walls, and the moment it stopped, an icy chill swept through the group, making everyone's hair stand on end. Today, Alcatraz remains a historical landmark, but the darkness it once harbored continues to haunt those who set foot on its grounds. The heavy iron doors, dim corridors, and chilling legends have cemented Alcatraz's place as one of the most terrifying prisons in human history. Did you get goosebumps from the horror of this prison? If not, get ready to enter the most terrifying nightmare in Cambodia's history. 3. S-21 Prison, Kampuchea. Can you believe that simply wearing glasses or knowing a foreign language could mark you as an enemy, leading to your disappearance forever? No trial, no defense, only torture and death. Welcome to S-21, the most ruthless killing machine of the Khmer Rouge regime, a place where once you enter, you will never return. Few would have imagined that before becoming a notorious prison, S-21, also known as Tulle Slanguas, once a peaceful school in the heart of Phnom Penh. But when Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge seized power in 1975, everything changed. Driven by the ambition to create a pure agrarian society with no classes, no intellectuals, and no religion, Pol Pot viewed anyone with education, glasses, foreign language skills, or connections to the old government as a threat. These individuals were labeled as spies and traitors, sent to S-21 where human life held no value. Inside S-21, prisoners endured a living nightmare. The most brutal forms of torture were carried out daily. Prisoners were beaten to death, left in agonizing positions for days, and starved until they were nothing but skin and bones. They were forced to confess to crimes they never committed, only to be executed mercilessly afterward. Desperate screams, blood-stained walls, and skeletal hands clutching at iron bar stays are the remnants of thousands of tormented souls. Instruments of torture, including nail-extracting pliers, iron whips, and electric chairs, remain as chilling reminders of one of humanity's darkest chapters. Out of more than 20,000 prisoners, only 7 survived. One of them, Chum May, is now 95 years old. He is a living witness to the nightmare of S-21, having documented his horrifying experiences in the book Survivor. On the 7th of January, 1979, the Vietnamese army entered Phnom Penh, overthrowing the Khmer Rouge and putting an end to nearly 4 years of terror. The soldiers who arrived at S-21 were met with one of the most horrifying sights in history. Bodies still shackled to iron beds, blood splattered across the walls, and torture devices scattered everywhere. Mass graves were unearthed right within the prison grounds, where hundreds of mutilated bodies were piled atop one another. The scene resembled a medieval nightmare, where humanity had long since been replaced by sheer brutality. Today, S-21 has been transformed into the Tulle Slang Genocide Museum, preserving undeniable evidence of the Khmer Rouge's atrocities. Visitors who step inside often feel a suffocating sense of fear, as if the restless spirits of the victims still linger within its walls. Even now, people continue to ask, how could they bring themselves to slaughter their own people? Was compassion replaced by fanaticism and the thirst for power? Or did hatred turn them into monsters disguised as humans? 4. Tadmur Prison, Syria. If there was ever a place where humans were treated worse than animals, it was Tadmur Prison, a true nightmare in the heart of the Syrian desert. Built by the French in the 1930s, it became a house of terror under the rule of Hafez al-Assad, 1971-2000, imprisoning thousands of political dissidents. Located about 125 miles from Damascus, deep in the desert, this was a place devoid of humanity where torture, humiliation, and death lurked every moment. The prison had 7 courtyards, 50 cells, 39 solitary confinement rooms, and 19 underground isolation chambers. Tadmur was designed following the panopticon model, a circular structure with a central watchtower, allowing guards to observe prisoners at all times, while inmates could never be sure if they were being watched. The word panopticon originates from Panops, the giant in Greek mythology with 100 eyes. Tadmur was unlike any other prison. Here, prisoners were stripped of all basic rights, even the right to look one another in the eyes. I never looked into the eyes of any fellow prisoner, and none of them looked into mine until after we were released. Eye contact was strictly forbidden, wrote Syrian writer Yassin Haj Saleh in his article The Road to Tadmur. Saleh was imprisoned there between 1995 and 1996. The air in Tadmur was always thick with fear, where any mistake could cost a life. Survivors recalled how they had to learn Silentero exist under absolute control, where every day was a relentless test of physical and mental endurance. Each day in Tadmur was an endless cycle of torture. The guards were not just executioners, but sadists who invented new forms of cruelty for their own pleasure. Syrian poet Faraj Bayraktar recalled that prisoners had to recognize guards by the color of their shoes because looking at their faces was strictly forbidden. In one particularly degrading act, he was forced to move hundreds of slippers with his mouth in his cell, a twisted game designed purely for the guards' amusement. When inmates pleaded for help as someone lay dying, the only response they received was,
"Call us only when there's a corpse to collect."
The horrors of Tadmur remain etched in the memories of those who survived. Each prison cell was a living tomb, with barbed wire ceilings allowing guards to monitor prisoners 24/7. No one knew when they would be summoned for another round of merciless beatings or worse, execution without reason. Death at Tadmur came not just from executions, but from relentless torture, starvation, disease, and above all, the crushing despair of having no escape. In 2015, amid the conflict in Syria, Tadmur prison was destroyed. This sparked controversy. Some believed it should have been preserved as a historical monument, ensuring future generations never forget the atrocities committed within its walls.
They demolished a historic symbol that should have stayed because in every room there were people who were killed.
Lamented Ali Aboudin, a Lebanese former prisoner who spent 4 years there. But the nightmare doesn't end here. This time, the fear comes from a place of endless white light and absolute isolation, a prison designed to break not just the body, but the mind. La Tumba. 5. La Tumba Prison, Venezuela. Some prisons are infamous for their brutality. Others are terrifying because of the ruthless guards who run them. But La Tumba is different. It doesn't rely on beatings or physical torture. Its silence, its cold, and its soulless white confinement are enough to break a person's mind. Buried 33 feet underground, right in the heart of Caracas, lies one of the most notorious prisons in Venezuela, La Tumba, or the Tomb. And that name isn't just for show. This is where political prisoners, those who dare to oppose Nicolas Maduro's regime, are held and subjected to some of the most inhumane psychological tortures imaginable. Stepping into La Tumba, prisoners don't just lose their freedom, they lose their very humanity. Each inmate is locked inside a tiny 6.5 by 10 feet cell, surrounded by 4 stark white walls with no windows, no glimpse of the outside world. But that's not the worst part. The blinding white neon lights are never turned off. They burn 24/7, stripping prisoners of any sense of time, day or night becomes meaningless. The eerie silence is suffocating, yet it is a silence that itself becomes an invisible form of torment. The prison's freezing temperatures have been compared to a giant walk-in freezer. The temperature is kept at 41 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to make inmates shiver, lose feeling in their limbs, and sink into an agonizing state of numbness. There are no beds, no mattresses, only freezing concrete slabs to sleep on. Many prisoners eventually succumb to exhaustion, falling into a mental breakdown, experiencing hallucinations, or even losing their sanity. Restrooms? There are none. When prisoners need to relieve themselves, they must press a buzzer and wait for a guard to escort them elsewhere. But if the guard takes too long, they have to endure it. These unsanitary conditions have led to serious illnesses, and some inmates have died in agony forgotten by the world above. Food at La Tumba is another form of psychological torture. Survivors have reported being forced to eat their own waste or to handle scalding hot food with their bare hands, suffering burns and resorting to eating scraps off the floor like wild animals. All of this amounts to a brutal method of psychological torment that human rights experts call tortura blanca, white torture. No whips, no chains, but a slow, relentless destruction of the mind. Prisoners are reduced to hollow shells, trapped in a world of despair until they either go insane or die in silence. La Tumba isn't just a prison. It's a nightmare, a real-life hell in the heart of Venezuela. Do you think you could survive a week in a place like this? If yes, comment 9. If not, hit the like button. We've just explored 5 of the most infamous prisons in the world, each with its own terrifying history and horrifying reputation. But trust me, this is just the beginning. Because in part 2, we'll go even deeper into the darkness, where cruel regimes, brutal punishments, and inescapable nightmares await. What's coming next might be even worse. Don't forget to like and subscribe to be the first to watch part 2.